Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
Because it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
Well, we got a few things to do. We do
have a job.
Actually, we got a lot to do. Tonight's show is going to be packed. We had to move a little bit of stuff around this week from the weird day on Monday, Chris's little guy's birthday. So we've shifted some things around this week. So we got a pretty jam-packed show. We are going to talk to Dave Feit, who's been covering Nebraska for 10 years about the Huskers and what they've got going on. Put up a story with him earlier this morning about, what you should know, the players to watch, the strengths, the weaknesses, and what he thinks. So we'll dive into that pretty deep here in a little bit as soon as he jumps on. We've got, Chris is going to call me dumb, which I'm sure a lot of people out there are going to like.
They already are.
Dude, I'm a nice guy. Why? Let me ask you this, Chris. You've said my name before, right? You've verbally said my name out loud before.
Yeah.
Does it taste good? Does it taste awesome? Why do people keep my name in their mouths so often? I don't understand.
We've talked about that before, that your name is pretty it's almost like
oh boy,
John Doe or something, like Brandon Brown. Like it's like, there's probably a million Brandon Browns. I don't know.
People like it. Birds are chirping, lots of slap noises, a lot of this.
Yeah.
A little
bit of that.
No, it's all good, man. I mean, hey. I like what we're doing. There's clearly a lot of people out there that like what we're doing, and I'd stack up what we're doing against anybody out there. I'll put it that way, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that who thinks otherwise. So there you go.
Oh, right then and there. I
put the invite out all the time for people to come on and have a chat. Not one taker yet. Not one. I don't know. It is what it is. Soon. What do you got, man? You said you had a topic. I'm kind of curious, actually.
Well, yeah. Okay, so yesterday we were talking about, or was it yesterday? I'm getting the days confused. We were talking about pop.
We're going back to back here now.
All right, so we were talking about pop, and we were talking about how, when you don't have pop with a meal, it totally ruins the meal. So, ironically, tonight, we're getting things ready for my son's birthday party, which is tomorrow. We're going to throw it during the day. My wife's making a birthday cake. And it turns out that we don't have time to make dinner. So she says, we need to go pick something up. She runs up to go get Mancino's. I say, get me the pizza grinder, babe, because I love the pizza grinder. She comes home with the pizza grinder. No beverage.
Yeah.
No beverage. So
little known fact.
It was a whole. Go ahead.
Chris's nickname is Pizza Grinder.
It was Pizza Grinder back in the day. And for several reasons, but love the pizza grinder. So there was no beverage involved in the meal, and I only ended up eating half of what I normally would. So I think I had an epiphany. I think the lack of a sugary beverage with the meal is that's what helps you lose weight, right? Because you're going to consume less. If you don't have the salty and then you can't offset it with the sugary and keep going back and forth. To me, I just kind of ran out of steam pretty early on the grinder. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe it's, tough it out, no pop, eat what you want.
I was agreeing with that sentiment.
What's
Mike.
that?
That's a party foul. I don't know how you can even possibly think that pizza or a grinder or something in that family's coming to the table, and you don't have pop ready. That's
well, what's bad about it? I said no pop, and she said I said, what do you want? And to me, I thought, that just goes without saying, man. That's it's like getting napkins with the meal.
Well,
it's just part of the meal.
Now I'm really questioning your pop connoisseur level. You don't have pop on deck? I never don't have any in the house.
No, we just recently ran out. I don't try to keep too much on hand, and when I do, it's usually just diet. But yeah, man, when I just had the water with it, I only ate, like I said, half of what I normally would, and I think that might be the secret, man. You take the pop out, not only are you not getting the calories from the pop, but it's also making it harder for you to eat more. So I might have just become like a fitness coach. I do this, I do the fitness thing on the side, a couple other side hustles.
I'm gonna snap a picture at the next game where you're intravenously putting Coke into your body. My buddy Wes,
number 9
buddy
of
Wes,
the
good friend of mine, been a friend since 6th grade. He texted me today. He's like, "You fat asses need to lay off the pop." I'm like, "Damn,
it's a lot
dude,
of pop, man. It's
top
a lot of
rope,
pop.
top rope from Wes about the pop."
It's a
But
lot of
hey,
pop,
look,
yeah.
man. Like I said, I don't have a lot of other vices. I don't really do the beer thing. I'm not a smoker. I don't. Pop's it. I'd probably do more fast food than I need to. It's much less now. We used to live in an area where it was like right up the street, many options. Now I gotta go a little further. But when you're out on the road, you're doing stuff. It's not as bad anymore. But when I used to cover recruiting, man, God, I ate horrible. Just all the time out on the road. You stop and get something. And you and I, we didn't eat real well.
What is it about the road trip that really just makes you want to go off the rails, man? It's like
you kind of have to. I mean,
you see a Panda, you see like one of those Oasis pit stops, that has like the Panda and the Sbarro and the guys dressed in military garb tasting parking lot fluid.
God,
you get all kinds of folks there.
That was a weird day. We were rolling at that. Yeah, gentlemen, old military hat, Army fatigues, not active duty, and he was out there. Something was coming from their vehicle. He bent down. This guy was like Jason Bourne. He bent down, finger sample of the fluid on the ground.
The screen. I don't know if that just happened for everybody out there, but the screen literally froze for me as you were.
Well, perfect
timing. Perfect timing.
Licked it. Had a discussion with his wife. Got in the car. They drove away. Just an interesting development, and we are now joined. We're kind of not stalling, but we wanted to have a little bit of a discussion here before we invited our guest for tonight, Dave Feit. I asked him. I said, "All right, let me get this name. It's F-E-I-T. So is it Fight? Is it Feet? Is it Fate? It's Fight." Dave Feit is here with us. Thanks for joining us, man. Oh, we don't have a microphone. We're having no audio with you, Dave. I don't know if you got something you have to click over there. You're not muted on my end. So I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with that. We can hopefully get that squared away here. Maybe check some stuff, come back in. I'm not really sure, but no sound for you right now for whatever reason. I don't know if you have to pick something different there or what the deal is, but anyway, we'll let Dave figure that out for just a second. I'll take him out of the stream. He can come back.
Welcome to live television.
Hey, that's what it is, man. You try to get it figured out on the fly, and sometimes it doesn't work. We've done, 60, 70 plus episodes now, all told. Not all of them on StreamYard, but most of them have been on here. And we've had quite a bit of success with this. We haven't had a lot of mess ups, a little echoing here and there. I had a little weird audio thing the other day. We've had a couple issues at the big house, but for the most part, man, this thing has gone off pretty smoothly. And I know there's been quite a few people who have asked, like, what is it that you guys are using? So StreamYard, there you go. A little shout out to our streaming service because it's worked pretty well. Let's try Dave again. Dave, do we have you? We do not. We do not have Dave.
No?
There he is.
Wait, there we go.
Got him.
Can you hear
Got
me?
him. I think I can hear you now.
We got you.
We can hear you now, Dave.
Even better.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. I'm actually going to let you. I'm going to let you plug real quick the site you work for, your role. Kind of explain that to both Chris and I and our listeners as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I write for HuskerMax.com. It's one of the biggest and oldest Husker fan sites out there. In the last year, they've kind of gotten associated with the Sports Illustrated Fan Nation network. So that's really kind of expanded our reach, and it's been a good relationship.
Well, there you go. And he's been covering the Huskers for more than a decade. So you're going to know a hell of a lot more about them than we are, and that's why we're going to pick your brain. And I want to start right out of the gate with just kind of a recap of how the season has looked for them. Obviously, they started off the year with I would say, a pretty disappointing loss to Illinois in week 0. And then they've got 3 wins over not the greatest of teams, but they're ascending. I mean, they beat up on Northwestern last year by pretty much 50 points. I mean, I guess what's the vibe? What's the fan base thinking around the team right now? They're 3-3. The wins that they have aren't against top flight opponents. The losses they've had have been against Michigan State, who's really good, Oklahoma, who's really good, close losses. What is everybody feeling about Nebraska as they get ready to host Michigan tomorrow night?
So this is year 4 of Scott Frost, and this has been, coming in the season, he was 12-20 overall at Nebraska. So obviously coming into the program, former national championship quarterback, native son, had that undefeated season at Central Florida. High expectations for what he was going to do here. And he's 12-20 coming into the year. So this has been a kind of a prove it year where, he talks about, we've got getting the talent in, we're getting the culture established, we're doing this, that, and the other. And this has been the prove it year. And I think there's a lot of buy-in for that. And then in week 0, they go to Illinois and they just absolutely shit the bed. I can say shit on here, right?
You absolutely can, especially about that game. Yeah.
And it was just a culmination of all the stuff they had gone wrong in the past 4 years. Turnovers, sloppy play, penalties, special teams miscues. It was just a greatest hits album of everything that's gone wrong. And then they came back and kicked the crap out of Fordham, which you would hope they would do. They beat Buffalo pretty soundly. It was more so than the final score indicated. And I think Buffalo's better than Northwestern. I think Buffalo would beat Northwestern handily. And then they went to Oklahoma and could have won, maybe should have won. Again, special teams bit them in the ass. Went up to Michigan State and had one of the finest defensive performances that I can remember, where they shut out the Spartans in the second half, held them to 14 total yards, 0 first downs, and had the game won, and then couldn't get a first down, punted, punter kicks it the wrong direction, takes it back for 6, tie it up, go to overtime, throw an interception, and give a field goal. So it's been a roller coaster, and it's, the fan base is a little divided. Obviously, Frost still has a lot of cash here, but there's some people who are questioning if he's the guy to get it done.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I kind of figured we'd be talking a similar language tonight.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, things are going phenomenal for Michigan and Jim Harbaugh this year, but that's been the deal. I mean, he's fallen short in some areas. Things are going really well right now, and I think it's tomorrow's a big deal to continue that trend and continue that theme in 2021. Obviously, 2020 was forgettable overall. The losses to Ohio State, the 500 record against Michigan State, the no Big Ten titles, like they're similar language. I think same type of deal. Big time player, alma mater, native son, all that stuff. There's not a ton of similarities like in their accomplishments and their record, but somehow Jim Harbaugh and Scott Frost always get kind of woven together whenever this talk comes up, because there are some similarities in the other areas. I want to talk specifically about what Nebraska's doing on the field. I see a lot of shakeups on the O-line, and Michigan's defense, Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo, some of the guys that bring pressure have been really good at that this year, and I think a lot of people think that those guys might feast tomorrow against an O-line that's not very experienced and moving around a lot. You going into week 6, shuffling your offensive line this much, not usually a great recipe for success, but what are expectations for that O-line unit against a pretty good, pretty fast, aggressive Michigan defense?
Well, just in general, when you talk Nebraska, you talk O-line. They have the most Outland Trophy winners. The Remington Award, which is given to the nation's best center, is named after a Nebraska player. So the O-line expectations are really high, and they're coached by a guy, Greg Austin, who was a former Nebraska lineman, played under the legendary Milt Tenneper, who was one of the greatest offensive line coaches ever. And they've been horrible this year. They can't block consistently. Martinez is always having to run for his life. And part of that is they're really, really young. I think on the entire roster, they have 0 seniors, I think 3 or 4 juniors, and the guys they're playing are mostly freshmen and redshirt freshmen. So they're super young, and it shows. They're taking their lumps. In the Michigan State game, I think all four of the 5 offensive linemen had a false start penalty. In the Oklahoma game, all 5 of them got a false start penalty. So, there's that. So obviously change was needed. So against Northwestern, they brought in a true freshman, Teddy Prochaska. butcher his name. And then they brought in a transfer from Colorado State, and I'm not even going to try that young man's name. He is originally from Germany. Actually came to Nebraska as an exchange student in high school, saw a Husker game, fell in love with the sport, went to Colorado because he got a scholarship, and then came and walked on here. So they showed promise in that first game against Northwestern, but Northwestern kind of sucks.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
I'm a little dubious about how good they are. So tomorrow is going to be a really good test for them to be able to see, are these guys for real, or are they going to get exposed?
You mentioned Adrian Martinez running for his life. That can be good and bad for Nebraska and for opponents. I mean, this dude is an athlete. He can fly. He's got a strong arm. He hasn't been super accurate. He does turn it over. He makes some mistakes here. I mean, that's kind of been his career's kind of been up and down, like maybe the seasons have been up and down under Scott Frost. I mean, there's some correlation there, I think, but he is a problem. I mean, he can take a zone read keeper and score from 80 yards out. There's not a lot of quarterbacks who can. He can. He's, like I said, he does have a strong arm, struggles with accuracy here and there, but what's he have to do tomorrow? Can he do it against a team like Michigan? Is this the type of situation where at home, night game, big time atmosphere, he's going to try to do too much? That's kind of what I think might happen. But again, I don't cover them every single day. So what kind of a guy is he on this stage, and what do you think you're going to see from him against Michigan tomorrow?
That's a great question. He definitely has had the potential of trying to do too much and kind of overreacting and making stupid mistakes. One of the things I've kind of written about a couple times this year is he operates on a kind of crazy creative continuum where sometimes he is really, really creative and things work really well. And sometimes he's really crazy and we get turnovers and stupid throws. When he's on his creative side, he's making option pitches super late. He did a forward chest pass in one of the games, found a guy wide open for 25 yards. So, and part of that is, when you're running for your life and you can't get your feet set to make a solid throw, sometimes you push and try to make things happen. So that line of scrimmage is really going to be critical for him. And sometimes that works to his favor. If the pocket breaks down, he's more than willing to tuck it and run. And, he's taken it 70 yards against Illinois. He took it 60 against Buffalo, I think. So he's shown he can score from anywhere. Accuracy sometimes is an issue for him. That was one of the things that hurt him in the Illinois game was he was missing receivers high. Nebraska has a tight end, Austin Allen, who is a legit 6'9". Had him wide open in the flat, threw it 3 feet over his head.
Not easy to do. Not easy to do.
He found a way.
Yeah. So I hear all this. I hear about the O-line shuffling, Michigan's advantage. Adrian Martinez, he's been up and down. And then you look at the spread's 2.5. I'm like, I don't really understand how they come up with that number, but the dudes in Vegas aren't in business of losing money. So you have to pay attention when they come out with a line like that. What are the advantages for Nebraska in this one? I mean, are there any that you can immediately point to that say like they're going to be able to do this against Michigan, or they're better than this at Michigan? I think the home field is the first obvious one. The crowd, I expect it to be pretty crazy, but what are the advantages? Why is this line as close as it is 24 hours before kickoff?
It's a couple of things. One, for whatever reason, I think Nebraska is 6-0 against the spread this year. Not a huge gambler, but they have covered every single line this year. So there is that. Maybe not Illinois since they lost, but they are really good against the spread. So I think Vegas is noticing that and trying to shift to get a little more action on both sides. Obviously, in that game in Lincoln, it's going to be a crazy atmosphere, probably one of the best in some time. Otherwise, I think it's the defense. Now, Nebraska is playing some really strong defense. I haven't watched a ton of Michigan to know how offensively potent they are. But I think that's part of it is the idea that Nebraska can get in there and if not shut them down, then at least limit them and keep it close.
Well, that's debatable. Chris, I'll give you the floor for a second if you want, since you're I don't want you to feel left out of our discussion here, but explain, how potent is Michigan's offense? Educate
Well,
Mr. Fight over there and let him know how he can make a decision on what we might see tomorrow.
yeah, I guess it depends on the opponent. It depends on the evening. It depends on the flow of the game. I mean, Michigan, they're certainly committed to running the football. I mean, I think that's been proven through the first 5 weeks of the season. They're going to try to pound the football down your throat. And even when it's not necessarily working, I think that they've shown a willingness to continue to do it. They've opened it up a little bit more over the past couple of weeks. And so I think, the passing game, even though we saw more out of it last week than we have seen all season, but there's still some big question marks there. That to me is the one area that I'm still a little bit uncertain about Michigan. They haven't trailed all season. So if they get into, a tough environment like Lincoln, and all of a sudden they find themselves behind on the scoreboard in that environment, what does the offense look like there when they've got to have the yards down the field, when they've got to have the points? We haven't seen Michigan in that position yet. So when they're tested, I think that's the biggest thing is, to answer your question, nobody knows because they haven't truly been tested to this point.
I'm going to tie both of your guys' comments together. Dave, you mentioned the defense is playing well. Chris, you mentioned Michigan's commitment to the run. Earlier this week, I think if I say his name wrong, you can correct me, Dave. Jojo Doman, talented linebacker, was asked about, Michigan wants to run the ball early and often, and he said, bring it on. That was his quote. We heard a young man from Washington say that earlier this year, and Michigan proceeded to run for 350 yards in that game. So I think Nebraska's defense is quite a bit better than Washington's, but some would argue that it's maybe not as good as Wisconsin's, and Michigan just put up 38 points on them in Camp Randall. They didn't run the ball particularly well, but it was effective enough, and they got some timely runs and opened up the pass game. So thoughts on Doman saying what he said? Is this the kind of guy he is? I know he's talented. He flies all over the field. He makes a lot of plays. But is this bulletin board material that Michigan's paying attention to at this point?
I don't think so. JoJo's never really been, a cocky, bulletin board type of guy. And I'll be honest, Chris, when you said that Michigan's plan is to run, I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Because that has been Nebraska's strength. And we went to the game against Michigan State hearing all week about their talented running back.
Kenneth Walker,
he was just going to run all over Nebraska, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Other than a long run at the start of overtime, he got shut down. I don't have the number in front of me, but I don't think he cracked 70 yards against Nebraska.
Yeah.
And they held him in check. So
it's going to be interesting. Michigan has tried to run the ball every single week, even against Rutgers.
There's no question about it. They are going to run the ball a lot on Saturday. I think anybody who's watched that team this year knows that if you all of a sudden think they're going to transition to some sort of air raid and just kind of, air it out with Cade, it's not going to happen. They're going to run the ball 40 plus times a game, probably for the remainder of the year.
Yeah. I mean, Michigan, 2.9 yards a carry against Rutgers. They still ran it over and over and over. 2.5 yards per carry against Wisconsin. They still ran it a bunch. Cade McNamara did throw it 28 times last week against the Badgers. That's his season high in attempts. And I would guess it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark tomorrow too, because I agree with you, Dave. I don't think Michigan's going to be able to run all over Nebraska. They've shown an ability to stop that. Before we get to the last point, where I'm going to let you talk about your prediction and how you think the game's actually going to go, this home field advantage, like you mentioned earlier, hasn't maybe been this big of a deal in a long time. You're starting to see more and more evidence of it on social media. I know Scott Frost is mentioning we want you to be loud. The official Twitter accounts tweeting things out. I've seen different people taking shots at Michigan's game day atmosphere when, all right, I guess you just do that as the game's approaching. The game's in Lincoln. I don't really know why it matters how they compare to the Big House, but whatever. It's what makes it fun. There's people chirping. Everybody expects this thing to be raucous tomorrow. What is that game going to be like? I'm actually kind of bummed I'm not coming now. I debated back and forth. I will not be there. But what can people expect to see at Memorial Stadium, and how big of an advantage could that potentially be?
Nebraska, I looked today. They haven't had a field storming or torn the goalpost down since October of 1994.
Wow.
And, part of that was, there was the stretch in the late 90s, early 2000s where we were too good for that. That's beneath us. Not anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
We're to the point now where if we knock off a top 10 team in our house, you're damn right the goalposts are coming down. We'll talk a little bit about if I think that's going to happen or not.
Yeah, we'll finish with that shortly here.
Yeah, but the atmosphere is going to be pretty good. It's night games wherever you're at are always a blast. The stadium in Lincoln is kind of in a triangle. That's not a triangle. Triangle between two different bar districts, plus the tailgating scene. So I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit of buzzed atmosphere, dual meaning, in the crowd for that. And if that thing is late, close in the fourth quarter, I guarantee the fans are going to do everything they can to will that team to victory.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a long time to get some beverages in your system when you got a 7:30 kickoff. So that will be interesting. Chris, go ahead before we finish up with Dave.
Yeah. I'm just curious. Every time we have, a guest on like this, I'm always curious. I know you said you haven't watched or seen too much of Michigan this year, but what is the perception of Michigan, to the folks in Lincoln? We know, kind of what we think about Michigan here in Ann Arbor and what kind of team they are and what they're capable of. But do you get a sense of, what the fans in Lincoln think about this team in terms of like the challenge they're going to present to the Cornhuskers?
I think, it's really strange with Nebraska and Michigan. Way back when Nebraska joined the conference and we were in the Legends division and played every year, you really thought this was going to be a fun little rivalry and we'd see each other every year and really have some fun. But since they went to East and West, we played twice maybe, and not since
not often.
Not since 18. Not here in Lincoln since 12, I think.
2012, yeah.
And so that makes it tough because we see Ohio State. Seems like every goddamn year we have to play the Buckeyes. Gotta play them again this year.
We know what that's like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they just kick our faces in, and we're like, man, wouldn't it be nice if we could see Indiana or Rutgers a little more often. But, no, I think the perception here of Michigan is, I think we see a lot of ourselves in what Michigan's going through. The native son coach, the famous alum coming back to lead the program, and it just hasn't been as easy or as straightforward as anybody thought it would be. And just that constant pressure of, okay, when are we going to get over the hump? When's it going to happen? And I know here in Lincoln with Frost, there's always been that kind of whisper of, okay, if not Frost, who can do it?
I've never heard that before.
Good God, every day we hear that when Harbaugh's stuck with it.
I assume so.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody really has an answer here in Ann Arbor. I don't know if anyone has one out there in Lincoln either, because that's.
Well, I think that's the big danger when you do the sort of perfect marriage hire where it's a Harbaugh coming back to Michigan or a Scott Frost coming back to Nebraska, is everybody thinks like this is so perfect it has to work. And I think that there's a willingness to sort of try maybe longer than you normally would otherwise, because you're committed to seeing this through. And for that reason, that, my God, if this doesn't work, like where can we go? How is it going to work? But, we hear that a lot here in Ann Arbor. And the reality is, and look, make no mistake, Jim Harbaugh is off to a phenomenal start. Everything Michigan is doing is great. So I'm not complaining, but there are a lot of talented, qualified candidates out there, the vast majority of which we don't even have any idea who they are. We don't know who their names are. So for anybody who thinks there's a shortage of good coaching candidates out there for Power 5 programs, there really isn't.
Yeah.
The challenge is, can you find them?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I've gotten to this year of, I want Frost to work, but if he doesn't, surely there's somebody else out here who can go 12-20 in 4 years.
Amen. All right, Dave, we'll get you out of here on this. I'm not going to read verbatim what you submitted for our Know the Enemy article, but I found one stat pretty interesting. So I'm going to read that and then let you talk about tomorrow's game and then give your prediction of what you think is going to happen in Lincoln. Scott Frost, 4-10 after winning a game. It seems like you win a game, whether it's against a good team, a bad team, a big win, a close win, like that means you had just figured something out. So then to go 4-10 in those following games is a pretty surprising, alarming number. I mean, I bet a lot of people would, even Nebraska fans might not realize it's that bad. But with that said, they are coming off a damn near 50-point win over Northwestern. They've got Michigan at home tomorrow. Everybody's pretty amped up for it also already. How's it going to go? What do you see happening? What's your prediction for the final?
You know, if I wasn't aware of that stat and wasn't aware of the history of, we beat, last year in 2020, we beat Penn State before Penn State got exposed, and we're like, all right, we're going to be all right. We're going to do good. And the next week, Illinois came to town and just beat the shit out of us.
How does that happen? Illinois? Come on, Nebraska.
I know. It was embarrassing. And then we, beat somebody else. And then Minnesota came in with 50 players because of COVID and ran it all over us. So the only thing about that stat that gives me hope is this is one of the few times where after a win, we're playing a good team. Now, granted, that happened earlier this year between Buffalo and Oklahoma, and maybe they've learned from that. I go back and forth on Frost. I want him to work. I can see so many reasons why it's not working. But you can always see that little glimmer of, okay, I see his big picture. I see what he wants to do. He wants to have the tough, aggressive defense that they may give up some yards, but they're going to get off the field and give the ball back to the offense. Offense is going to be multiple. They're going to be dynamic all over the place, and they're going to find a way to get it down the field, get in the end zone, score some points. We saw that against Northwestern last week. It really is the clearest representation of what Frost wants to accomplish. And so, that old sticker of, I want to believe.
I can hear it in your voice, man. I know where
I want to believe, but I'm also, I need to see it first. I need to see it happen before I can
put
my heart out there again.
Look at this hater. Look at him.
Yeah, we get called
another team.
We get called haters for saying that about Michigan. But I'm like, all right, come on.
You want to see something first? How
Yeah,
unreal.
I
do have a question.
Concept?
I mean, given where Scott Frost currently is in his tenure, where does this game tomorrow rank? I mean, in important games, during his time at Nebraska. I mean, he's, it feels like he's on the hot seat. It feels like there's a lot of frustration. I don't know that they necessarily have to win, but how important is it that they go out in primetime and look like they belong on the field with Michigan?
So, yeah, good question. With Nebraska, the thing to know is the athletic director who hired Frost is no longer here. New athletic director in July or August as Trev Alberts, former Nebraska All-American. And he's showing so far he's a no-nonsense guy. And he's not putting out any ultimatums, win or else. But he's basically saying, like everybody else, prove it. Prove you deserve more time. Prove your vision can work. And so, no, I don't think Michigan is a make or break, do or die game. And partially that because, Nebraska has another brutal schedule. We still have Ohio State at home. We'll get Iowa at home to end the season. So Frost will have a couple more shots at a top 10 team to make his case and to show progress. The absolute thing he cannot do is he can't get blown out. Another close loss like he had at Michigan State or at Oklahoma. Yeah, it'll be brutal for the fans. It'll be frustrating. But at least if he can point to progress and say, you know what, we were this bad bounce away, we were this away, maybe the rest screwed us or whatever the case may be, he can point to that, but you can't defend a blowout. Even if Michigan is the greatest program we'll face this year.
And so your final score prediction is, have you changed it at all since you submitted this to me for the written article earlier?
Not really. I think, Frost, I don't have the number in front of you. Frost is also horrible in one-score games. So this will be a one-score game, and I think history will prove correct that Frost will come up on the short end of it.
Brandon, can we go live to the folks over there in Lincoln? Do you have sound from Lincoln right now? You have to have it on the soundboard, right? Wait, hold on. We're going live to Lincoln now. Can we hear it? Can we hear it somewhere there?
No, I don't have booze. Do I have booze? Oh,
yes,
yeah.
You do.
There we go.
Get him out of here.
That's there's people with torches and pitchforks outside the door. So
yeah, amen, brother. We're all there. So Dave has 27-21. That's what he submitted for the final.
Such a brave soul.
That one possession game, and we'll see. We'll see if things change for Scott Frost. I mean, this is where we were last week with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, going to Camp Randall, 0-12 as an underdog on the road, a place they hadn't won in 20 years. Last 5 tries at Camp Randall, they came up short. Lost by 40 almost, a 38-point loss against Wisconsin last year in the Big House, albeit an empty stadium in the weird year, everything like that. And they got a big monkey off their back by winning that and winning it, handily. They were up 28 points with less than a minute to go in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And Wisconsin scored a garbage touchdown to give Michigan a 21-point win. So Nebraska looking to do something similar tomorrow, I think, against Michigan at home. I expect the stadium to be rocking. It should be a fun one to watch. Davey, thank you so much for joining us, man. Really good stuff, good insight. One more time, huskermax.com, I believe, is right, where you can find your stuff. Correct. I think that's your Twitter handle there on the screen. So everybody who wants to check what Dave is saying about Nebraska and Michigan, go do that. Dave, thanks so much for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, thank you.
All right. Well, there you have it. Chris, this is crazy. I think every expert we've had on has picked their team to lose. Even in Washington was a close, it didn't. Again, Washington wasn't very good. That turned out to be the case. Wisconsin may not be very good. That turned out to be the case. Nebraska, again, I asked Dave straight out. I mean, they've got 3 wins, but it's against turds. I mean, Fordham, Buffalo, and Northwestern. Like, if you're a Big Ten school, you go 3-0 against those 3 teams 100 times out of 100. You should. Yeah. So, that the fact that those are their 3 wins and every team they've played with a pulse they've lost to. I mean, Illinois, that's a bad loss. At Michigan State with how they've looked, it's not a bad loss, but it's still an L. And then Oklahoma, I mean, they're not as good as they typically are either, but it's still a loss. So every team they played that's decent, they've lost to. A couple close ones, but I don't know. I don't know. I think Michigan is striking fear a little too strong. I mean, these experts who cover these teams are coming on and saying Michigan's going to come in and beat them. I mean, that's what the guy from Wisconsin said last week. Now we just heard that from Dave about going to Nebraska. Michigan's going to go into their house and get a W.
This is where the Michigan football season makes a big transition, because I think up until now it has been what is Michigan? Who are they? What are they going to look like? What are they going to be? You start off the season 5 weeks ago. You're not even ranked in the AP top 25. You're entering weeks. You haven't even made it to the bye week yet, and you're already a top 10 team. And at this rate, Michigan looks like they could be a top 5 team by the end of the week, by next weekend or by next week. So, I don't know, man. I think that Michigan is good. But I think you're right. I don't know that. I just get nervous, man, because everybody's starting to look at Michigan like they are a legit team, and opponents now are looking at them the same way. And I wonder how, we've seen how they react to teams that are kind of just trying to feel them out. Now Michigan is hunted. Now Michigan's a top 10 team. You're going to be getting the best effort from your opponents week in and week out. So we'll see how they handle it.
No doubt about it. All right, let's do this.
Definitely warms the cockles of the heart.
Let's warm some cockles. We're going to warm some cockles because you get to openly call me dumb anytime you want to.
Idiot.
People love that, dude. Come on. People wish they're lining up to do
Where
that.
Are they? You know what? Where are they? I'm looking at the numbers. Where are they?
Yeah, I don't know. They're out there somewhere. All right, so we're going to do You're Dumb, You're Smart. You get to call me dumb or you get to call me smart for my prediction. This was your story last week, and you didn't do real well on the prediction piece, correct? And the week before that, I went 5 for 5, but the week before that, I went 0 for 5. So we're a little bit like Nebraska here. We're a little roller coaster, man, up and down, can't perform, then showing up in a big way. Here we go. Call me dumb, call me smart. 1, Blake Corum will get back into the end zone tomorrow.
Oh, that's smart. I think that's smart money for sure. And you can see that he's certainly been paying attention to the chatter. And I do think it's been a bit overblown. Like, bring it on is not necessarily to me a controversial statement. It's like, okay, well, I mean, if they're going to rush it at us, like bring it on, we're going to try to stop it, whatever. But bottom line is it caught his attention. He's using it as a motivating factor. And I think we see him get in the end zone multiple times tomorrow. So I think that's a smart play.
All right. Cade McNamara will throw his first pick of the season.
It's going to piss a lot of people off that you just said that. This guy never turns the ball over, right?
He hasn't so far.
I predicted. I have a prediction. I feel like Michigan does get a turnover this weekend. I do think it comes through the air, and I do think it comes from Cade McNamara. Not a hater. I don't hate the guy. I just think you're not going to go an entire season not throwing an interception. Has it ever happened? Has it ever happened?
I'm certain.
Not in recent history. So, I mean, bottom line is
not if you've got like a minimum of 100 throws or
sure. So you start to look at the environment, you start to look at the situation, and you think, given the fact that it's going to happen at some point, it's just the recipe seems right for it to happen in Lincoln. I don't think that means they lose the game, but I do think he gets his first interception.
Number 3, Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo will both record a sack against this
smart
offensive lineman. Yeah,
smart, buddy. I mean, they look unstoppable. Michigan looks like defensively, I think that the fear that Michigan puts into people defensively, I think it's warranted. When you look at a David Ojabo, when you look like an Aiden Hutchinson, when you have a Chris Hinton, when you have a Mozzie Smith, I mean, they've got some big boys. You got a Josh Ross at the linebacker position. They've got some dudes out there that can lay the wood. What was the question? I kind of went off on the rant there.
Oh, Ojabo and Hutchinson record a sack.
Hell yes.
Smart all day. Smart money, right? Gotta be.
Smart
Number
money.
4. Cornelius Johnson will have a catch of at least 25 yards.
Yeah, that's kind of becoming a common theme too, that, maybe he gets 2 or 3 receptions during the game, but 1 or 2 of them is going for 25 plus yards and he's getting in the end zone. So I would say, you can probably expect more of that. I would hope to see him in the 5 or 6 reception, especially if we're not going to have Roman Wilson. I think that you just got to get more production out of Cornelius Johnson. I think that he's more than anybody else has established himself as the go-to guy.
Love statements like that. What are those called where you say something? Does a bear shit in the woods? The frog's ass watertight. I love those whatever those little sayings are. I think it's smart too. I think Cornelius Johnson will have a big catch. And last one, a Nebraska themed question. Adrian Martinez will score a rushing touchdown against the Wolverines.
I do think so. And I think that this is the one area that really concerns me. And I don't know that Michigan has faced a quarterback like this all year that has this type of mobility, this type of athleticism. We know that they've been pretty aggressive. I know that they're sound defensively, but I wonder, how is the defense going to react to this? I think that this is going to be a great early season challenge for that defense and for Mike McDonald. I think that they'll adjust because that's what we feel confident in, right? That they're going to start to make adjustments, but I do think they get burned maybe once or twice early.
Was I smart on all 5?
It's a smart guy. Look at this guy.
Smart guy, dude. Smart guy. Actually, as we're talking, I'm thinking about it. I got to go out and find drops for smart, dumbass, something like each time I say it, when you say it, I can hit a button over there.
Are you sure you don't want to go cover like Cornell or Stanford?
Yeah. I'm pretty smart, dude. Yale, Harvard.
That's what I'm saying, man. This seems like Ivy League stuff that we're putting out here.
It's great stuff. Here we go.
Oh, no.
Big Ten.
Dude, It's an easy one this week. It is no freaking brainer. It's Penn State at Iowa at 4:00. This is number 3 versus number 4.
Big.
Iowa is favored by 1.5 points. That's essentially a toss-up game. Chris, Penn State at Iowa. We're going to be in Penn State. We're going to be checking out the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley in about a month. I'm excited about that already. We got to get through several other games first, but this one tomorrow at Kinnick, it's going to get dark. It's going to be light when it starts, but it's going to be dark by the time it ends. That place is like the house of horrors for anybody who goes there. Penn State at Iowa. Iowa's favored by 1.5. What you got?
I'm taking Iowa
Yeah.
all day long. You know what happens. You just said it. You know what happens at Kinnick when it gets dark out. It's like Michael Myers is living around that stadium or whatever, just slashing. They just turned into a different team. Shout out to our boy Zach. I think he's going to be disappointed after the weekend. I think the Nittany Lions go down in Kinnick, and we've suffered that heartbreak. We know what that's like. You go back to 2016, and man, that was a killer. I think Penn State suffers the same fate.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty close, but with it being 1.5 points, I'd have to put the money on Iowa to cover.
And it still keeps them in the divisional race, right? So they're still in the race. It's not going to be catastrophic. Everything's still on the table for Penn State. I don't think they get the W.
Yeah, Kirk Ferentz, he might take a nap on the sidelines, but he'll be good. He'll wake up. He'll coach his team to a victory. Dude, I mean, Iowa's going to be like number 3 in the country. Or they already are, right? Are they number 3 right now, or is Penn State
number 3?
They're 3.
Penn State's
They're
number
already
4.
3. Yeah,
Iowa.
so it's crazy.
Iowa. What is
crazy.
happening this year?
I don't know. I think Iowa gets the win. I think it might be a 3 or a 6 point win, so I would say they cover.
Welcome to Midwest football, right?
Jeez,
we do it right out here.
Kinnick, 4 o'clock, kickoff, Penn State, Iowa. Give me the Hawkeyes by a little bit.
Big Ten, big lane.
The slate for Big Ten football is actually not horrible this weekend, but I think the lamest game of them all is Wisconsin at Illinois. Wisconsin's been a pretty big letdown. Illinois is arguably the worst team in the conference. The Badgers are favored by 10.5. It's at Illinois. It kicks off at 3:30. I could care less if I saw 1 second of this game. Is this as lame as it looks on paper?
I was just going to say that the reason it's as lame as it is because who gives a shit? I mean, literally, the outcome of this game has zero impact on what happens within the Big Ten conference. So, couldn't agree more.
I would stay away from this game because I just don't know if either of them can score points. But Wisconsin by 10.5, that's a big number for a team that struggles to score.
Yeah, but man, Illinois is just so. Yeah. Illinois is still Illinois. I'll take Wisconsin.
All right, so you would take Wisconsin to win by at least 11. That's a big number. That's a big number out there for your boys. But all right, Badgers by
wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Bielema against his old team.
Ooh.
In Champaign.
Things just got a little weird.
Hold on a second. Give me Illinois for the upset. Give me Illinois for the upset.
Outright dog win.
Outright. Give me Illinois for the upset at home. Bielema has had a tough go of it. He's not going to let this one go. His boys are going to be amped up.
I think I would actually take Illinois in the points. I don't think they're going to win the game, but I think they look at Chris from the top rope out here, dude. I mean, that is – I'm going to applaud that. You might be a little crazy. You might go broke, but I like the balls that come with it.
Maybe it's the Vista Bay seltzers.
Vista Bay? Where did you get that? Big Lots?
I stole it from my wife.
Shout out to Big Lots. Can we get a Big Lots sponsor?
Can we?
Anyway,
Can we get a Vista
over-unders.
Bay
Who's starting over-unders this week, dude? I'm excited. I like over-unders. I like predictive stuff that we do. I like the burning questions. I got my 5 ready. I got my 5 ready. Are you ready for over-unders?
I got my 5 ready as well.
All right. You want to start or you want me to?
Kick it off.
Over-unders this week at Nebraska. Here we go. Cade McNamara, over-under 22.5 pass attempts. He had 28
over
Wisconsin, as I said during.
Over. I think he'll be somewhere 25, 26 range. I think he's going to have to be.
I think so, too. I think he's going to be in the same ballpark as he was against Wisconsin. I think, Michigan was up by quite a bit in that game towards the end, and they were still throwing it a little bit here and there. Brought JJ in, let him throw it once. I mean, it's going to be another tough road environment, but I think they're going to have to air it out a little bit. Like Dave said, I mean, Nebraska shuts the run down. That's kind of what they do. And even if Michigan runs it a good bit better against Nebraska than they did against Wisconsin, it's still not going to be like that good. I mean, they ran for 2.5 yards a carry. You add a whole other 2 yards onto that, you're still not really getting it done on the ground. I think in college football, if you're at the 5 yard per carry mark, that's kind of like either a good day or a not so good day. So they'd have to be a lot better against Nebraska to even consider it being a successful rushing day. So yeah, I think they're gonna have to throw it a little bit. I think they're gonna throw it.
Taking the over.
Yeah, taking the over.
All right, they've yet to do it this year. We've heard the stories. We've seen the little graphics that have come out. I've got Michigan offensive turnovers set at 0.5.
I say yeah. I think, that was one of the predictions I made. Again, this isn't a shot at Cade. This isn't like, oh, he's going to suck tomorrow. you can't you can't go the whole season without throwing an interception. And I mean, like at this point, he'd be at the halfway mark. That would be really, really impressive. I mean, it would be great if he didn't throw a pick and didn't fumble it or didn't get sacked. I mean, he hasn't been sacked yet either. It's just been an easy go for Cade in terms of adversity, and that's why Michigan's 5-0. And I think at some point your luck runs out a little bit, and he's going to throw a pick here. He's going to get hit here.
Yeah.
He's going to do this. I mean, that's just football. It's nothing against Cade, but I think on the road things get a little rocky. Maybe that Nebraska defense shakes things up a little bit. Yeah, I would say yes. Michigan will turn it over a time or two. I just think it's just the way football goes, man. It's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he's shown that he can throw a pretty good deep ball, but he's also shown the tendency to be inaccurate when he's trying to fit the ball into a hole. So I think given the energy, the environment, the fact that it's a primetime game, national television, they haven't done it yet. I mean, like I said earlier, I think the recipe is there for it to happen.
There you have it. All right, I will say
before you go further, can you ask the people out there if they can hear that echo?
We got Chris with an echo. Anybody want to chime in and let us know if we're hearing an echo for Chris? If not, we will.
I'll roll.
Or if he is, we'll fix it. You mentioned it in passing. I was going to get into it as we kind of got towards the detailed discussion about what Michigan is doing. Roman Wilson is not going to play tomorrow. Confirm that. Definitely echoing, they said, dude. So I don't know if you want to jump out real quick and come back in. Yeah, I'll keep rolling here. Roman Wilson did not travel with the team to Lincoln, so he is out tomorrow. If anybody hasn't heard that, we put a story up just a little bit ago at WolverineDigest.com. That's a bummer. And so that means that Cade is definitely going to have to throw it around a little bit more to some different people. I would expect A.J. Henning to be a little bit more involved. Maybe you'll see a couple more targets to Dalen Baldwin. Michigan's got talented guys at receiver. It's not like, they've already lost Ronnie Bell. If Roman Wilson is out for a game or two, maybe he comes back against Michigan State. That's what I would predict right now. Cade's going to have to spread it around a little bit. So my question to you, Chris, is over under 6.5 different players catch a pass from Cade. So if you can number down the list, that goes for backs, tight ends, anybody. Over under 6.5 different players make a catch tomorrow.
I'll take the over. That's the one thing we've seen so far this year is that we haven't seen one receiver make a ton of receptions, but we have seen him spread the ball out. I know that Blake Corum has made quite a few receptions coming out of the backfield. So I would say over comfortably.
Yeah, I think it's going to be over too. When you start to list off the players who it could be. So you've got Blake Corum, Hassan Haskins, Eric All, A.J. Henning, Dalen Baldwin, Cornelius Johnson, maybe Schoonmaker gets in the mix in there. I don't know if you've got Donovan Edwards out on the field for a swing pass. Mikey Sanders still is getting a lot of snaps. You've got enough targets to where it wouldn't even have to be very stressed or forced to spread it around a little bit to get it to 7 different guys. But I think I like that number that I chose because I think it's right there. You start to think about how little Michigan has thrown it and how we've talked about it many times at this point that guys are finishing the game with a catch or two. Some of the bigger name receivers aren't getting a lot of targets, so it's going to be close, but I will go over just barely on 6.5 receivers making a catch.
All right. I asked you this question last week, and I'm curious this week. Michigan, again, they have not trailed all season long. I've got the lead changes set at 1.5. Are you taking the over or the under? So the first team to score would count as 1.
I'll take the over on that. I think all it takes in these kinds of games is for the home team to get the ball first. They get the ball first, they go down, even get a field goal. I think Michigan is the better team overall. So I think if Michigan scores first, it's no. I don't think Nebraska has enough to come back. I think Michigan's defense will bow up and keep the lead. Michigan will run the ball, try to possess it, run the clock a little bit. So it all depends on how that first score happens. If Nebraska can get on the board first, I'd say yes. If Michigan gets on the board first, I would say no.
That was going to be my exact same response. And I don't know if that's an acceptable answer because you're basically saying, well, it depends on what happens. But what we've seen from Michigan so far this year is when they take the lead, they just don't give it up. And so I think the same will happen if they score first in Lincoln. But then the question becomes if they go down, again, how do they react? What does the offense look like? Do they still play loose? Do they play tight? That's when you'll find out quite a bit about this team.
I have a feeling that I have a feeling that Nebraska is going to come out heated. I actually think that Nebraska might jump out first. I think the energy is going to be way, way up for them, but I think it'll fizzle. I think Michigan will make a couple plays and then eventually take over and quiet 90,000 just like they did 80,000 last week. I think that's what we're going to see. So I would take the over. I would take the over. I think Wisconsin. I keep saying Wisconsin. I feel like these two teams are the same in my head.
They are. It's all corn and fields and barns.
Yeah,
and all
red,
that.
white.
Yeah.
Who cares? Whatever.
Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska.
Yeah,
they're all the same.
I think Nebraska scores first. I will say that. So that would be lead change 1. I think Michigan takes the lead back, wins the game. There's your 2.
Lead change 2.
All right. Jake Moody, over under a 44.5 yarder in this one.
I'll take the over. I mean, he's shown that he's got just a sledgehammer down there hanging off his knee. So
careful.
The addiction to sex? The sex addiction or something?
2 in a row. 2 shows in a row. I was hoping we wouldn't need that. Well, off of his leg, he can kick the ball. He can kick the ball far, I guess is what I'm trying. I don't know. Off of his knee,
Jake Moody's got a hammer. That's a drop. That's an easy drop. Easy drop.
I'm done. I'm done with references. I'm done because I never get it right. Jake Moody can kick the ball really, really, really far. He's done it a lot, and I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the under. The under. I think he might boot 1 or 2 through, but I think Michigan's offense is going to move it. I don't think they're going to get stifled. I think he hits a field goal or 2, but under 44.
All right. Well, I'm taking the over, so I guess we know who cares more about the team. Moving on. Well, let's stick on Jake Moody.
You certainly care a lot about Jake Moody. That is very clear.
Well, speaking of which, let's just stay right on him, shall we? I've got Moody at 3.5 field goals on Saturday. Over, under.
Under. I think it's 2.
Under.
I think it'll be.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Michigan's going to be able to score. I think Nebraska's defense, though, if they bow up and play well like they have been, there'll be some punts. So I'm going to say under. Yeah, I don't think he'll be called on that much. I think 2 field goals for Moody tomorrow.
I'll go out on a limb and I'll take the over because I just fear that we might see the Michigan offense still stall out towards the red zone a little bit. That's the one thing, I guess, if you could have a hang up with the offense, we haven't seen much creativity inside of the red zone to really put the ball in. I think we'll probably see them trip up a little bit, and I think Moody's going to have to come through. And I think, I'll take the over on the 3.5, and I think every single one of those points are going to be needed.
That's a fair assessment. Little lack of creativity down inside the 10, 15-yard line. So, yeah.
I mean, it's give it to Haskins and let him hammer it up. Like getting Blake Corum on the edge, that to me seems like something you'd want to do. Swing passes to like the edge for this team, the red zone, it seems like the edge is where you can be the most dangerous, and you don't see it that often.
I can't
often.
hate
Was
the
that
logic.
an East Coast accent?
Something just happened there.
Often?
I can't hate the logic on that. I will say I already said under, didn't I? Yeah, I think Michigan's offense is a little more successful than that tomorrow. Yeah. But we'll see. I like your logic. You almost convinced me. I might be thinking about that one as we go into the game tomorrow night. All right, JJ McCarthy, over under 9.5 snaps. Do you want to hear the Wisconsin number before you make your guess?
Yeah, I do.
He played 11 against the Badgers.
Okay. I'm going to go over because you know what? Every time I think it's going to be a close game with Michigan, they just end up going out and beating the shit out of the opponent. Even though it got a little bit close against Wisconsin, like it never really felt that close. And so I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I think he's in the game. I think he gets over what'd you say, it was 9?
9.5, yeah. I
think he gets over the 9.5. I give him 11 or 12 snaps.
I think over as well. I'm starting to be a believer in what this team can do on the road and against the team that I just don't think Nebraska's that good. I'm sorry, I don't. Every team they played that's decent, they've lost, and the teams they've beaten are trash. So, I think this fan base is going to be amped. I think they come out hot, fired up, lots and lots of energy, make a play, but they deflate and Michigan pulls away late. I think you're going to see another clean game, not a lot of mistakes. And I think by the end of the day, Michigan is going to cover this spread by a mile. And I think that means you're going to see some J.J. McCarthy in the game. So I'll say over as well. I will say over 9.5 snaps for the Rook as well.
Alrighty, sir. This is going to be my final one because I did have Cade. I had his attempt set the over under at 27.5.
Okay.
So this will be my final. I got for the Michigan defense over under at 1.5 turnovers. We saw him get one with Dax Hill. Yeah.
I'll say over. Adrian Martinez is good for one by himself without even being forced into it, I feel like. And the way Michigan's been rushing the passer, the way the defense has been, again, bending but not breaking. Some DBs have got their hands on some balls. I think it's probably 2 over the course of a 60-minute game. I think they get 2 takeaways. I'll take the over.
I think so too, and that's the flip side of having a quarterback like Martinez, who's athletic and likes to, toss the ball around and make things happen. Is that sometimes it'll cost you, and I do think Martinez gets an interception. I think we've seen Ojabo and Hutchinson get in for to force strip sacks, and they've been in the backfield a lot. I just think the Cornhuskers are going to turn the ball over more than once this time, so I'll go over on the 1.5.
All right, and we will finish up with a defensive focus prediction for Michigan. Okay. Over under total sacks 5.5. 5.5 sacks in the game. Now Michigan's defense has been rushing the quarterback well, but Adrian Martinez has got some mobility. What do you think?
That's a good number. I mean, I'm still going to take the under. You have it at 5.5.
5.5. They had 6 in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'll put him at 5. I think the mobility of Martinez will, he'll maybe be able to turn what would be a sack into like a 1 or 2 yard gain. It won't do much, but I do think his escapability will play a factor. I still think, like I said, they're getting in the backfield a lot. I think they get him down 5 times, but I'll still take the under.
I'm going to take the under as well. I think Scott Frost, as a former quarterback, understanding what Michigan's trying to do, understanding that his guy is mobile, move the pocket, get him outside a little bit, some RPO stuff. I think that's what I would do if I was their coach. I would try to get him out of harm's way as much as possible and make it so there's no way Michigan can get to him that many times. So I will take the under as well. But Ojabo and Hutchinson are coming, man. They are coming, and they are getting better every week.
Yeah.
Mike McDonald's getting better every week. I think it's.
Can you imagine being a quarterback knowing you've got that on the schedule?
Nope, I don't want to think about it. But that's a good problem for Michigan to have. But I'll take the under. I mean, I think they're going to chase him around a little bit, but I think he's fast. He'll throw it away. He'll do this. He'll do that. I just don't think they get to him. I think they pressure him plenty and rattle him and make his day tough. But in terms of actually tackling him behind the line of scrimmage, that's tough to do with a guy like Martinez. So I'll say under.
Yeah,
that's all we got. That's it. That's it for the over-unders.
Just killing it.
I like it a lot.
Day in and day out.
We're going to finish with some more bets. We're going to make, I don't know. Can we? We can't say that. People get mad. I was going to say we're going to make you lots of money right here, but I don't know. We'll see what we come up with.
Don't say that, for the love of God.
See what we come up with on Place Your Bets.
They're already angry enough as it is. We've shown that we're not very good at this.
4 ranked games. We already covered the one, though, Penn State, Iowa. We both took Iowa to cover the 1.5 points. So there you go for that one. Oklahoma versus Texas, the Red River. What do they call that? The Red River Showdown? Red River, whatever the hell.
Rivalry?
Red River rivalry.
Or did they change it because that was the R? Now it's the Red River Shootout.
I don't know. They're playing it in Dallas. It's at noon.
Who the hell cares? It's the
Oklahoma's number 6. They're favored by 3.5 over number 21 Texas. Where are you putting your money in the Red River game? Whatever the hell you want to call it.
Oklahoma. I just don't. I don't trust Texas at this point. In a lot of ways, up until recently, I looked at Texas and Michigan in a very similar way. I think Michigan is sort of maybe taking 1 or 2 steps ahead of where Texas is. I just don't trust them in a big game environment at this point. I'll take Oklahoma.
I would too. I would put the money on Oklahoma to cover that 3.5 point number. I feel like Texas is one of those teams, like they're decent. They've got good athletes. They recruit well. But I just feel like the wheels fall off in a big way for them too often. And like if Oklahoma can hit a couple of explosive plays, like they might end up winning that game by 20.
What you just said, does that not sound like traditionally what Michigan has been?
I mean, yeah, that's, there's a lot of similarities between you've got Michigan, you've got Texas, you've got USC. Like those 3 schools, right. I feel like there's so many parallels because of how good they could be and how they actually are. But I'll take Oklahoma to cover that 3.5 point number as well. The second game, this one's really interesting. I haven't watched a lot of these 2 teams, but super explosive on offense. Last week, both of them were like, yeah, we're going to go out and tackle the Giant, and they got their asses smacked. Number 13, Arkansas at number 17, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is favored by 5.5. It's a noon game, kind of a sleepy time, but quarterbacks that like to throw it all over the place, lots of offense. What do you got here? This one's interesting to me. I wish I could. I'll probably watch this game because I really want to see what these two teams look like against each other.
Yeah, I'm going to take Ole Miss just because I like their offense. I think that they have the capability to put a lot of points on the board. You said it's at Ole Miss, right?
That Ole Miss. Yep.
Yeah, so I'll take the Rebels. I'll take the points. They've got too good of an offense.
It's a close one.
Do you trust Arkansas?
I don't trust Ole Miss either. That's why
true.
this one. That's why this one is a fun one to look at. I think I would take Arkansas, not to win, but to cover. I mean, maybe a closer game. It's going to be a shootout.
What was it, 5.5?
5.5, yeah. So it's going to be back and forth, back and forth. I think you're going to see. I don't know what the over is, but I would take it. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah. It's probably in the 60s. This is going to be a high-scoring game. They're going to put up a ton of points. Again, it's at noon. That can sometimes be a weird thing when you've got a big game, but it's at noon. I'll take Arkansas. I'll take Arkansas to cover. I think Ole Miss wins the game, but I think Arkansas will be close and keep it close. So, yeah, that's going to be a fun one to watch. That's probably what I'll have on at noon as I'm getting ready to settle in for just a day of not moving off the couch tomorrow. I'm pretty excited.
Day of football, man. Yeah, this is going to be a nice change of pace.
Yeah, first game we're not at
football.
First game we're not at for this season so far. All right, last but not least, pretty big matchup in the SEC. Auburn, another team I don't really trust, but this number is a hog. Number 2, Georgia at Auburn. Number 18, Auburn. It's a 3:30 kickoff. Georgia is favored by. What's your guess? Because I bet you haven't looked at the number on this. What do you think?
I haven't.
Favored by
the first number that came to mind was 25.5.
Holy shnikes! All right, well I know where you're going. They're favored by 15.5.
Okay.
Then I guess you got the dogs.
So I'm gonna take Georgia comfortably. I mean, they just look legit, and
they do.
We saw, Auburn already went on the road. They went and played at Penn State. I know that's a really tough environment, but I just think Georgia's legit. I think they get it done. I think it's a blowout. I think I'm looking at Georgia in the same light that you traditionally look at an Alabama or even a Clemson outside of this year.
I'm going to do some research real quick because something has been brought to my attention by T-Mac McLean in the comments. Georgia's quarterback, is he out? Is JT Daniels out for this game? Does that change your pick at all?
No. Well, no. Because that's one of those programs that just seems to be just fine.
So he's dinged, but I don't know if they've actually ruled him officially out.
I didn't hear anything about it.
He's expected to make the trip, dress out, but likely will not be available to play in the game. So with that said, I will take Auburn to cover. I will take Auburn and the points.
I'll still take Georgia.
Georgia wins by maybe it's a 14-point win, a 10-point win, but it's at Auburn. Bo Nix can make some plays. Auburn's got some athletes. No JT Daniels. Give me Auburn. It's close. I'm close. I could easily see like a 16, 20-point win for Georgia, but I will roll with Auburn and see how that one looks. For the record, I don't feel very comfortable at either of those last two. I'm pretty comfortable with Oklahoma by 3.5. Those other two games, I wouldn't put any money on them. I wouldn't touch those. But that's if we're doing this segment, we got to nut up and do it. So that's where I'd be at. There you have it. Last but not least, man, let's finish with Michigan's game at Nebraska. Michigan is just a 2.5-point favorite against the Huskers in Lincoln. Kickoff is at 7:30. Late game, Memorial Stadium. First time in a long time. Where are you slapping your money down on this one?
I'm taking Michigan. I'm taking Michigan to cover. I mean, we've seen it. I said that Wisconsin would be, to me, that was where the field goal posts were. That was where the marker was. That was where we were going to find out what kind of team this was. And to me, I learned a lot about them. I feel very confident about how good they are. I think they're a legitimate Big Ten championship team. I think the biggest change with them is their mentality and the way they approach things. I think they're viewing us as a business trip. I think they come out with a pretty convincing win. I think you're right. It might be tight early. I think Nebraska is going to come out and swing and punch them in the mouth a couple times, but they'll eventually settle in and Michigan will run away with it.
Come out, swing with a sledgehammer, maybe? Is that what they're going to use?
Just slapping them across the face with the sledgehammer. Just showing up swinging. Moody.
I think Michigan. Not only would I'm going to put a little juice on this one. I think Michigan wins by quite a bit, actually. I mean, they have they have proved me wrong in a lot of ways this year. I've only picked them to lose once. I picked them to lose against Wisconsin. Obviously, they crushed them, but they have been blowing the doors off the spreads every week, except for Rutgers. They've been torching it. I mean, it was close against Wisconsin. They won by 4 touchdowns. It was close against Washington. They won by 3 touchdowns. It was like 20 or something against Northern Illinois. They were up by 60 freaking points at one point in that one. So they have been dusting the spreads. I would roll with them again this week. I think they win by more than 2.5. I think they win by quite a bit more than 2.5. So
and part of it is we don't think Nebraska is as good as some people might think they are, right? I mean, I think you're in that boat. I don't think Nebraska is. Like you said, look at who they've beaten. And then look at the way Nebraska looked early in the year. Like, I still think they're that Nebraska. They've just gotten fortunate with the schedule. I think Michigan brings them back down to earth.
You're going to get 2 things. You're going to either get Adrian Martinez to bone it up a few times and take a horrible sack or fumble a ball while he's running around or throw a pick or 2, or you're going to get him pulling some Houdini moves and maybe hurting Michigan in a big way because of his athleticism. I tend to lean more towards the first scenario. I just think that's been more what he's done over the course of his career. I think back to, I was down on the field for his true freshman season when they came to Michigan, and Michigan beat him by 30 or 40 points that game. And that poor dude, man, he was a true freshman at the time, just thrown into the mix. He was hit so many times that day. He might still have PTSD from that winged helmet being all up in his chin. So we'll see how that looks tomorrow night. I think Michigan's going to win, and I think they're going to win pretty big. We haven't put this together yet, but it'll be out tomorrow morning first thing. What do you got? What's your number? What's your number for this game tomorrow? What do you think Michigan wins by, and how does the final score look?
I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 42-17.
Wow.
With a halftime score of maybe like 14-17 going into the half. And then I just think Michigan they're bigger, faster, stronger. They're a better program. They've got better athletes. I think nature takes its course and things settle, the way that they're going to settle. But I think it's close early. 42-17.
I'm thinking like 31-17. I'm going to give Nebraska's defense a little more credit. I do think Michigan may turn it over once tomorrow. Hell, man, they went into Camp Randall and scored 38. So, 42.
The Wolverines are hungry, buddy.
42 is not exactly like a stretch. I mean, when you're talking about how they looked against Wisconsin and how they could look against Nebraska, but I'll scale it back just a little bit. I think they cover with ease, but I'm going to say 34-17. I think they double up the Huskers and move to 6-0 ahead of the bye week. Dude, what a time to be alive. 6-0, number 5 in the country maybe. Hope for a couple losses maybe from some teams ahead of them. Have to look at that. Like who's obviously one of Nebraska, one of
Iowa, Penn State.
Penn State's going to probably fall down. I mean, you always wonder a little bit, with 2 teams ranked that high.
Depends on how it looks. Depends on how it looks.
We will see. We will see how this looks. I think Michigan rolls. I think they win pretty easily, but I'm excited to watch it, man. Be at home with my family tomorrow.
I might tie one on.
I'm going to tie one on. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have a couple going. But we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow night, not from the stadium, but from our couches or from our setups.
Look at this. I might not even be wearing pants tomorrow. Isn't that great?
I don't have any on right now.
I was just going to say. I figured.
You addicted to sex? A sex addiction?
I might be, Jim. I might be. Take care, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow.